Let's take a look at the good, the bad, and then we'll take a look at just some noteworthy points as we head into what is going to be a rocking atmosphere. There's no question about it in Jack Trice Stadium here in Ames this coming Saturday. So let's take a look, first of all, at some of our good from Saturday's win. First of all, there's a lot to talk about when you win 34-6 over the number 17 Hoosiers, but the good, my first point on the list, is Spencer Petras did not turn the ball over. We'll get to some of the frustrations with Spencer. You can revisit our conversation with Don Patterson over at the Iowa at the Voice of College Football channel on YouTube. But let's save that for a moment. Let's talk about Petras playing clean. Didn't force any passes. There really weren't any dropped interceptions from Indiana. I thought Spencer was fairly conservative. You could call it a vanilla play calling day. I thought there were opportunities for Spencer to get the ball downfield. Don, of course, was at the game, and he was able to see sort of the entire frame of things. It's harder to see when you're at home. I mean, any casual fan or a serious fan who's watching from their big screen really can't see what's going on down the field. So, according to Don, there were receivers open at times. He still believes that receiver selection is a work in progress. I would agree with that. Again, I'm no expert given the fact that I can't see what's going on down the field at a game like this past Saturday, but certainly Spencer played clean. He did not force anything. I thought he was more accurate. Don didn't really see that. I thought Spencer was more accurate than we're accustomed to seeing. I think Spencer, and this is, I know some fans may not agree with this. I think Spencer is inherently more accurate than a Nate Stanley. I know we shouldn't be playing the comparative game because they're two different quarterbacks, and I think a lot of people would take Nate Stanley in a heartbeat right now. But I look at what Spencer Petras brings to the table, and he seems to throw a more accurate ball. I think one way that Nate Stanley really excelled when you compare the two is receiver selection. I think Nate Stanley, for the most part, hit the right guy, and at times, Petras either does not go through his progressions or he goes through his progressions and just misses guys. I think that's improved a little bit, but I still think, I agree with Don, receiver selection is going to be an issue. And once he gets that down, assuming he'll get that down, I think accuracy-wise, he's really improved. I thought he took a little bit of the steam off the ball. Again, Don didn't completely agree with that notion. He thought he was still putting a little bit too much smoke behind the football. At times he was. We think back to the pass to Tyler Goodson, a bit of a wheel right out of the backfield, and just smoked it and went off the fingertips of Tyler Goodson. That was a play I would put on Petras. You got to make that ball catchable. Although I did see a screen play or two where, again, it's a screen pass. You think it's not a hard pass. Well, we saw Spencer miss screen passes. I remember late last road opener against Purdue last year where Spencer needed to hit his man, Tyler Goodson, or it might have been Mekhi Sargent for a simple screen pass, overthrew him, and that was a crucial error in that game. So that's a good thing. I think Spencer has improved his accuracy. I think he's taking a little bit off the fastball, and he did not turn the ball over. Those are all good things. We'll get to the bad in a second, but those are all good things from the quarterback position. Defense, that's my second good thing to note here from this performance on Saturday. That goes without saying. I think this is kind of stating the obvious, but let's talk about detailed aspects of the defense that I believe are going to pay huge dividends down the road. We talked about the linebackers in the secondary, but specifically the experience at defensive back. Let's remember, here's a guy in Riley Moss who's been around the program 4 years. Here's a guy in Matt Hankins who's been around the program for 5 years. Kayvon Merriweather, this is, I believe, his third year. These guys have all been through a lot with COVID last year, having to adjust on the fly. You've got Jack Kerner, who clearly has become sort of I compare him a little bit to, I don't want to say a poor man's Brett Greenwood, but they play similar. I think they both have a knack for being where the football is. He's a bit undersized, but I think he's really elevated into that role. And the defensive line, one position we haven't really, or position group, I should say, that we really haven't talked about. I thought the defensive line was okay. Early on in the game, they were able to get pressure on Penix. I thought Noah Shannon played really well, big number 99 on the interior of that line. I thought he played really well. We did see about 8 guys rotating over, and maybe I counted wrong, but you got Van Valkenburg, Logan Lee, Y.A. Black, Joe Evans, And then you filter in also John Wagner, Deontay Craig, probably missing a guy or two in here. Noah Shannon, missed him earlier. And I'm probably missing another one. There were 7 or 8 guys, though, that Iowa was... Lucas Van Ness, that's the other guy, defensive end, I should say, that filtered in for Iowa. And so that's a good sign. I said it preseason. I think rotation, a deep rotation at defensive line is a sign of strength, whereas a deep rotation at offensive line, I believe, is actually a sign of weakness. Now, that could be changed, but that's my take on a Kirk Ferentz-led team. But again, the defense was spectacular. Turnover, I mean, obviously, Penix threw 3 interceptions. Turnovers were a huge issue for Indiana. But if Iowa can force turnovers like this, if they can force turnovers the way they did Saturday, they're not going to lose. I mean, they're just not going to lose to anybody. Do I think that's going to happen? No. But that's how impressive Iowa was, and that's how crucial turnovers are to the outcome of game. Just ask analytics guru Don Patterson. Let's talk about our third good thing that came out of Saturday. Special teams was near perfect. 2 for 2 for Caleb Shudak kicking the football. We expected that. We've heard nothing but good things about Caleb. I mean, he booted his kicks into the end zone. He was kicking off from both directions. Caleb looks really locked in right now, and I think he is going to be just as good, if not better, than Keith Duncan was these last couple of years. And credit to Caleb. This guy stuck around this program. He probably could have went somewhere else and started right away. He's a kid with a big leg, and if he has a good season, he's going to have a shot at the next level as well. If you can kick the ball over 50 yards and be accurate inside of 40, I think you have a good shot at kicking at the next level. You look at a guy like Keith Duncan, very solid kicker at Iowa, struggle with the long ball. You look at a guy like Marshall Kane, big legs, struggle with the kind of the mid-range kicks, and even we saw him miss some PATs at times. But you look at a guy like Nate Kading, could do it all. I'm not comparing him to Nate yet. We've seen a small sample size, but Caleb Shudak was impressive. Torrey Taylor, I give a lot of credit to Torrey. You really saw him working on the traditional punt. Of course, he's more of a traditional rugby-style kicker because of his background in Australia. But Torrey, I thought, really kicked the ball well, and he was so close to getting the ball, pinning the ball inside the 5. I mean, he was so close several different times compared to the Indiana punter that really struggled. So, again, no complaints there. Charlie Jones, right off the bat, returning the opening kickoff to about the 35-yard line. You can tell, punt return, he's going to be obviously elite. But he showed, kickoffs are a different story. You can ask any special teams coordinator or anybody who's returned kickoffs or returned punts. It's a different animal. The two positions are totally separate, but Charlie, surely, we can tell he's got a knack for both positions. Charlie did go down with an injury late in the game, was sort of gimping on one of his knees. It did not look good, and we're recording this on Tuesday. Kirk Ferentz stated today during his weekly press conference that Charlie's practicing. So that's shocking to me, honestly. When I saw the injury, that it didn't look good. But boy, that sounds like a very surprising but satisfying development in Iowa City. So again, Petrus played clean. The defense was spectacular, obviously, and special teams was perfect.